Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mom Your Own Way. I'm Lily Coco, and today my guest is Megan Sweeney, and I'm so excited to talk to her. She is an amazing mom. She has a beautiful daughter, and she's also co-founder of Pecan Co, a new parenting marketplace that's going to be launching later this summer. I'm really excited to talk to her about her motherhood, her as a person, and this new company as well. So let's get this party started. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Lily.
You look
How are
so
you?
beautiful.
So do you. So good to see you.
So good to see you. We were having some difficulties hopping on because we were trying to go live on TikTok at the same time. There's some audio issues. But here we are now. We figured it out.
Yes.
Megan,
Always with the technical
I
something or
know.
other.
I know. I've struggled so many times. I've had it where the mic was off, or one time I thought it was live and it wasn't, and it was like a really good episode, and then I missed the recording, and I was like, dang it, technology has
Oh,
won again.
every time, always something.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about you. I'm so excited to get to know you. I've known you for a couple of months now,
Hmm.
and I have the privilege of seeing some of your family videos actually recently, and your baby growing up, and you just see this love that's coming through you, your husband, your family. It's just this really adorable and very caring family that I'm excited to get to know. I want to know about your motherhood journey. I want to know about Pecan Co especially, but I want to
Yep.
know about you as a person and how you got here and what makes you you and anything you want to tell me about your story.
Sure. Well, there's a lot to me, I guess. So, like you said, I'm a mom. I have a 3-year-old daughter named Stenzi. I'm married to my, I guess, university sweetheart. We met when we were doing
Mm.
our MBA back many, many years ago now. So we've been together ever since. We've been married since 2015. I have to think about that every time,
Wow.
but have been together for about 12 years. I'm a brand marketer, so I've spent most of my career in the packaged goods industry, leading big iconic brands like Oreo and Ritz and Chips
Wow.
Ahoy and Cadbury. And before I got into food, I was in home cleaning, so I worked on Windex and scrubbing bubbles and really amazing brands
Those are
over the years.
huge.
Yeah, yeah, very grateful for my time in that industry and everything that I learned and how much I was able to do with those brands. It was, I say, the best training I could have ever asked for as a marketer. Um, I am a photographer on the side. I like to do family shoots and newborns and babies and kids and engagements and couples and all that good stuff. I love it. And yeah, and now I am the co-founder and the head of brand marketing for this new company, Pecan Co, which has just been an absolute dream job to get to do. And I've been doing it for about 3 months now. And I am so proud of everything that we've been able to do in a very short amount of time and cannot wait to get to launch and show everybody everything that we're working on.
What a journey. I feel like often we get to see, like, we just get to know companies, as they already exist. They are just kind of on the market. You start seeing them on the shelves, you
Yeah.
start seeing commercials or ads or whatever, which is now different because everything's now switching over to social. Not everything, but a lot of things are switching over to social media. So instead of seeing things on TV, we're usually seeing them
Yep.
in like the hands of influencers, and then it comes up as a thing, and then there's all these different ways of trying to fit products in, which is a whole new journey. I'm guessing for brands. um it's a weird world for them to try to figure out because it used to be such a set way of like, you give it to the celebrities or you put the product in a movie and then you do all of that, or even magazines. And now
Yep.
we're a little less on print. And now trying to figure out how to get into people's hands, into their phones. So then they're seeing it, they're talking about it, it's the buzzword. And with TikTok, what I've seen is a lot of brands are right now kind of struggling entering that world. Because TikTok is just such a different beast. On Instagram, you get to see the
Yes.
really pretty, like, pictures of something or even the videos, and it's very aesthetically pleasing. And TikTok it's kind of scary sometimes because people will call you out. People go on hunts. They start like dissecting things. Are you familiar with the essential oil Crunchy Mama account that was
No.
going on?
No.
I'll mention it quickly, but it's kind of insane. So there was this Crunchy Mama account that was doing these skits about what Crunchy Mamas say to one another, and there was this girl acting them out, and within a week they started blowing up, getting like 500,000 views and millions of views, and everybody found it really funny. And then within those skits, she would mention, you know, different things of Crunchy Mom and these essential oils. So then this one TikToker went on a hunt saying, hey, I think this is all set up. I think this is a marketing strategy by this essential oil brand who started this as a very organic, normal influencer account, but it's actually them having these skits, written it out as scripts, and they're marketing these essential oils. So then everybody caught on to that video and went and researched and started diving into it and doing detective work on that account. And then it became its own blown up thing. And so now it's been exposed as this essential oil, but it already got the followers and people are almost applauding at the way this marketing strategy was done. But I think it opened up a lot of people's eyes like, hey, there are different ways of doing this. And people on social media love to do their research. And like, if you ever need something found, you give it to TikTok and they're going to go figure it out. Like, people go diving deep. But I thought it was like a super genius marketing strategy for a brand. I was like, that's the way to do it. Although it feels a little sneaky.
It's a different world of marketing for sure than when I started back in the industry. Like you said, it was, you know, you do your TV ad and you cut it down, and then social media became a thing. But it was still, you know, you take your TV ad and you crop it into the right dimensions, and then you put that on Facebook, and that was, you know, really all we did. And it evolved so much over the years. In, you know, every platform, you have to look at it in its own way, and there's no, you know, sort of one size fits all for anything anymore. And this whole world of TikTok and influencers and is changing the way that we market products. And it's been, you know, a journey to learn about and really exciting. And there's so much you can do as a small brand now without big, huge budgets, and still generate a ton of excitement and a lot of trust in the products and a lot of trust in the brands if you do it the right way, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is creating that trust with either your brand or your followers or your audience, because people, when they come and see, they want to see you and they start trusting you. It's like, because those recommendations start coming in and people start trusting you, saying, oh, okay, well, if they use it or if they said this is good, you know, I'm going to trust it, or I'm going to try it too. But there's also something to say about not breaking that trust as well. Because I'm not a big fan of being lied to or like finding something out. You know, there's just a little sleaziness to it. But something you mentioned that caught my eye was that not all social medias are, you know, built in the same way. There's no one size fits it all. And that's something that I really like about Pecan Co, is the fact of like, there's no one size fits all for parenting.
No.
And this was not a hard journey, but something that was very unexpected when I became a mom, is that when I was looking for like advice or how to do things, I came across way too much advice, and then would get a lot of heat for the way maybe I was doing things because people weren't doing it the same way. And so I was like, man, I really thought that like mommies were all unite and like, let's talk to each other. But then there was a lot of like, at least on social media, you see a lot of like mom shaming or disappointment or, man, it's like worse than high school, you know, these moms
Totally.
sometimes just really get out of control. But what I'm excited about Pecan Co and their statement is just, you know, giving this opportunity, giving this platform, giving this place of moms to find like happy, healthy, safe recommendation where it's like easygoing, no pressure, where, hey, if you want to find good stuff that we really like and we've done our research on, it's here, but there's no like, but why don't you tell us more about it? Why am I going on? You tell us more about Pecan Co.
Well, you're becoming the Pika expert as well. So we Yeah, that was one thing that I was really, really excited about when Michael and I first started talking about this idea. Michael's my co-founder at Pecan Co, and um, this whole wanting to do things differently when it came to the parenting industry, and specifically trying to eliminate all the shoulds. And I
Mm.
know you've gone through this. I went through this as a new mom, and the amount of advice and tips and tricks, and it really can get quite overwhelming, and it's all very well intentioned because everyone around you just wants you to have the best experience. So if they had something that didn't work for them, they don't want you to go through the same thing, and if they had something that really did work for them, they just desperately want it to work for you too. And before we became parents, we were asking for all the advice, tell us what's the magic tricks, and how do
Yeah.
I get my baby to sleep, and how do I, make sure she's happy and eating all the foods and whatever it is. And we very quickly learned that our kid is not the same as any other kid, and we are not the same parents as any other set of parents. We're not the same people. So just because something worked for somebody else doesn't mean it necessarily was going to work for us. But I will say it took us some time to really build the confidence in our own parenting instincts, and to trust our gut and say, even though this should work, it doesn't feel right, or it's not working for us, or it's not working for her for whatever reason. And to say, okay, thank you, but we're going to figure this out on our own. And that's one thing that is a huge mission for us at Pecan Co. is we don't say the word should, we don't say the word must, we don't tell you have to do whatever this particular way, and it's the only way to do something, because we understand that every family is different and unique, and every child has different needs and abilities, and we just want to create a place where you can come and discover both products that we, like you said, have done a lot of research on and have vetted these brands, and are really, really proud of these brands, but also a lot of resources in terms of articles written by parenting experts or real parents, or lots of different places that we are sourcing this content from, to be able to come and discover what works best for your family. And if we can take that feeling of shame or guilt, or away from one mom or one parent, then we've done our job. So that's really all we're trying to do. And I'm super, super excited about it.
I love the little point you made about when you figured out that it's about trusting your own parenting instincts. Like when you said that, I was like, whoa, that was a point in my life where I kind of switched over, because I was like you, like I think the biggest thing as a parent, you just want to make the best decisions. And so you research these things, you're trying to find ways, because you're no longer just taking care of yourself, now you're taking care of another human being. And so you want to make the right decisions, you want to make the right choices. And often just the decision making process can be so overwhelming. You get decision fatigue, and because you're unsure, you don't know what's going to happen. But when you start looking within and understanding that, okay, it's about your family and how your family does things, and your kid is different, and being able to trust your own parenting instincts, which is so hard to do because it's so, especially as a first-time parent, you haven't done it. So to trust something you haven't done before, to take that leap and say, okay, I'm the expert in this thing I don't know how to do,
Yeah.
is really hard. It's really hard. But I think that's when that switch was for me, when I started trusting myself, knowing, hey, okay, I actually do know what's best for my kid. I know what's best for my family. I know what's going to work out. But I love the idea of having a safe place, like a village, a place to go to where you can just pick and choose the advice that you know is going to work for you, or hear stories where you can say, well, you know what, I'm glad that worked for them, but knowing my family,
Right.
that's not really going to work. But it's good
Yep.
to know. It's just good to know, and make your own decisions, giving you that freedom to make those decisions safely and confidently.
Exactly. Yep.
I
That's
love
our
that.
hope. Yeah.
I love that. I wanted to know, we briefly talked about this another day, but I wanted to know about your pregnancy story and hear more about that, because that's a very special story. and I'd love for others to know how it was for you.
Yeah, getting to motherhood was tough. So we had made the decision that we wanted to try for a baby, but we also had a lot of family and friends in our life that had struggled with infertility. So it was a huge, huge fear of mine that we were also going to struggle. Um, Thankfully, we did get pregnant right away, but unfortunately had a miscarriage about 9 weeks into the first pregnancy, and it was one of the most devastating things we have
Yeah.
ever gone through. I knew in my gut that something was wrong. I couldn't piece together what it was. And it wasn't until, unfortunately, I went for an ultrasound, and not knowing any different, we kind of followed what was being told of us. Gihan had to wait in the waiting room, and I had to go in myself, and they were going to do the measurements, and then they would call him in to see the heartbeat. And unfortunately, that experience did not go as planned. And the technician shared the news with me in a way that I wish she hadn't.
How did
Was
it?
very blunt and not empathetic, and made me just feel like, what is happening? Why is my husband not here? Why am I alone in this?
Yeah.
Um, and was very dismissive. And at the end, just kind of said, "Okay, well, that's it. Your doctor will call you in 2 days. You can leave." And I kind of stumbled out of there going, I don't know what is happening. Walked out the waiting room where Gihan had been sitting for a very long time, and nobody had told him anything, and kept walking, and essentially collapsed in the hallway. He was like, had run after me and caught me. And he just said, what is happening? And I said, it's not good. I don't know what's going on. So I called my doctor on the way from the car, and they said, come in right away and we'll get the information. And said, unfortunately, it's not a viable pregnancy. They were not obviously supposed to tell you the way that they did.
Yeah.
And that started a really difficult process, because my body just refused to believe that it wasn't pregnant.
Yeah.
Was not processing naturally. The medication did not work. And the medication, it's a medication that basically puts you into labor. So you go through all the contractions, but there is obviously no baby at the end of it. That didn't work. And then I had to have surgery, and it was still months later before my body was reset, I guess, and the hormone levels had gone down to not pregnant status. So that was a rough way to start, for sure.
I'm so sorry. Oh my God. When you were telling the story, I just got shivers. Oh. And so, the technician, did she tell you, or she just didn't tell you but said it was bad?
She said, why do you think you're pregnant? There's nothing here. It's an empty sac. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe hearing that. I try to put myself in your position, just to, like, how would you process that, being there and having someone tell you that? Like, how?
Not well.
Oh, man. I'm so sorry, but that's so rough. And that's so rough. That's just, and not having your husband with you, and then hearing that, and not, I'm sorry.
Yep. So, I mean,
Oh, it
I made the
hurts.
decision that day that I will never go into an ultrasound by myself again, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't know any better. We were following
Yeah,
what we
well,
were told.
you'd be expecting. That's the thing. There's these expectations, and what we see is what's supposed to happen. And I had another mom on, and she had 3 miscarriages. She had lost 3 babies before she now has 4 kids, and she's absolutely beautiful mom. But one of the times she told me that the technician was like very, not rude about it, but very dismissive also. And she was after 20 weeks, like pretty further along. And I don't know if that's just their way of doing things, because they don't want to get too attached and they don't want to feel emotionally invested. But to say, why do you think you're pregnant? There's nothing there. I mean, that just like hurts my soul to hear that. And I'm not even in your place, so I can't even imagine what it was like for you. Plus already with the worry of, hey, we don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Did you stay with the same doctor? Did you just say, I'm done with this whole thing, get me out of here?
So my doctor is phenomenal and amazing, and she picked us back up after that happened. She reported the technician and the clinic. We switched clinics, like ultrasound clinics for sure, and the one we went to, it was absolutely phenomenal. They knew our story, when we got pregnant again. They knew our story ahead of time. I still don't know how. I don't know if my doctor maybe called them and gave them a heads up. But they welcomed Gihan in, had him sit right next to the technician. And she said, I'm here with you. We're gonna do this together. And the second she saw the heartbeat, she said, there's a baby, there's a heartbeat, breathe.
Were you so nervous going into that second? Yeah. How did it, what was it like? Yeah.
It was awful. Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah. Because we didn't obviously get to heartbeat the first time around. So that was the big goal the second time. And I'm so grateful for that technician and every technician we had after that, who was just so lovely and so empathetic and understanding, and did everything they possibly could to make sure that it was a good experience for us.
The first time, really quick, he wasn't allowed in because it was during pandemic, right?
No, it was just protocol. That
okay.
the dad waits in the waiting room until partner waits in the waiting room, I should say, until they do their measurements, probably because they don't want someone hovering over their shoulder
Sure.
while they do their job. And yeah.
Rough.
Yeah.
Did you, after that first ultrasound and once you heard the heartbeat, did you still have anxiety and kind of cautiousness going all the way through it? Because it's not,
Totally. Yeah, there was always that what if. What if? But Gihan liked to remind me I was very, very sick the second pregnancy, and very, very, very sick. And he said that's what actually made him feel more confident that things were okay.
Because your body was,
how much more sick I was. Yeah.
What a good way of looking at that. Mm-hmm. Were you sick, just nauseous, or did you have other symptoms?
Nauseous and throwing up the whole right until she came out.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I want to say that sucks, but then from his standpoint, I'm like, it is a really good reminder. Like each time you throw up, it's almost like, okay, she's in there. We're kicking it. She's just letting me know she's safe. She's letting me know she's safe right now. It's her own way of communicating with you. Yeah. Although not the best way necessarily, but it's always better to have some communication than none, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So then now we've gone through the ultrasounds. How was let's talk about, I guess, your birth story. Because you had said that it was a home.
It's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm already blown away, and I feel like your life, whether you'd want to give rights to or not, but could be such a big film that could help so many moms, because there isn't a lot of talk about these kinds of conversation, the going in, the news that they could tell you, the bad news, that story. Just even seeing you in my head, watching you walk past your husband and collapse, like, there's so much in that shows the gravity of the situation and the gravity of how much you love your child. Even early on, knowing that you are connected to this human being, knowing this is a part of you and how it can change and how, like, it's, I guess I don't want to like expose your story, but it's just so, it's so beautiful in its odd way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. No, I appreciate it.
But let's talk about your birth story
Yeah.
and how we got to
So,
it.
yeah. So, we I went right to term. So Denzi was born 40 weeks and 3 days. That morning, about 2 in the morning, started to feel something and said, "Oh, I think this is it." Woke Gihan up, and he's like, "If it happens again, wake me up again. I need to get a little bit more sleep if this is really happening."
Good idea.
um, and then it happened again, and then it got very intense really quickly. And so we waited a couple hours, called the midwives, maybe 7 o'clock in the morning. They listen to how loud you're screaming on the phone to kind of determine, are you in active labor, are you not? And they're like,
Well,
you're not screaming enough, but
okay.
we'll come and check and make sure. And I was convinced. I'm like, it's time to go to the hospital. I like this. I have to be,
Yeah.
ready. This has to be happening right now based on the pain. And they checked and they said, you're 2 centimeters. And I went, no, that's not possible. And they said, yeah, so you've got a ways to go. We'll be back in a couple hours. Call us if you think your water breaks, or if you're needing us, call us and we'll be there. And the midwives were amazing and fantastic through the whole thing. Excuse me. And so we waited a couple hours, and I'm really struggling, going, I cannot do this for like multiple days. This hurts a lot. And so Gian called and said, like, she's having a hard time. Can somebody come and, make sure
Were you
she's
taking any
okay?
medicine or any painkillers or
Um,
baths?
Tylenol
Okay.
and Gravol was really all I could do. But I kept throwing up, so it really wasn't doing anything. So fast forward, they came back and they said, you're 3, maybe 3.5 centimeters. You are in this is going to be a while. And I just kept thinking, okay, what do I have to get to the hospital and get an
Yeah.
epidural and make some of this pain go away? And, but I said, well, I was also terrified of making the trip to the hospital and being turned away and told to come home. It was the beginning of January. We are in Canada, so there was a lot of snow happening
Mm.
at that time. So I said, like, I got to be really sure that if I go, they're not turning me away. And nobody's really talking about a hospital, so it must not be time. They must think I'm in this for a while.
Yeah.
And then a couple hours later, they checked again and they said, you're 3.5, maybe 4, but we're going to stay. We understand you're having a hard time, so we're going to stay and make sure that we can support you in any way that you can. But, we think this is, another day at least before she's coming. And then there actually was a shift change because it had been, I don't know, 16 hours or something of this going on. So a new midwife came.
Wait, how rapid were your contractions now at 16 hours?
I don't remember. They were
Okay.
probably like a minute or two apart, but they weren't lasting long enough.
Okay. So like
Maybe they were,
smaller waves.
yeah.
Okay.
So they were not deeming it active labor yet. And then new midwife came. I ended up throwing up again. And she said, I'm just going to check you, because apparently if you throw up, it's like the equivalent of 10 contractions happening at the same time.
Oh, okay. I can see
It, it,
that.
it really progresses things along. And she checked and she said, okay, I need you to look at me. Gihan, I need you to look at me. You are 9.5. So now we need to make some decisions.
Oh my God.
Either we call an ambulance. There is a very good chance you're going to deliver in the ambulance. It's a snowstorm. It's after hours. You're going to have to go through emergency, somehow get up to labor and delivery, and we think it's going to be a very traumatic process for you, or we do this here. And I just looked at Gihan and said, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? With like pure panic set in. You know, as we were thinking about delivery, we were very, very open to anything and everything that could have happened.
You had originally, your like birth plan was once contraction started, go to the hospital. Okay.
Yes. You know, I was open to laboring at home for sure. Because of the fear of being turned away. Like I didn't want to make multiple trips to the hospital. And then he somehow had kept his composure the entire time. Like was a total rock. I don't even know how. And he just looked at me and he said, they know what they're doing. We got to trust them. And I said, okay. And they had told me earlier in the pregnancy, they said, you know, if things progress really fast, we are prepared. We have basically a delivery room packed in our car at all times. And I just said, we're not even talking about that. Like that is not an option. And so they said, okay, give us 5-10 minutes. And they ran to their car. They called another midwife, and essentially converted our bedroom into a delivery room. There was like a plastic and tools and oxygen and a warming station for the baby. And it was unbelievable what they were able to do in a few short minutes. The backup midwife came. And then that kind of progressed for a little while, and they said we're gonna call paramedics once you start pushing, because when my water had broke, there was a little bit of meconium, so they were a little bit concerned of what was going to happen when she came out. So they said we're gonna call the paramedics just so that we have options should we need them when they come, when the baby comes. And actually that made me feel a lot better, because I was like, okay, there will be an ambulance here should we need to rush. The hospital is very close to us. And and then I started pushing, and she was out pretty fast, and everything was fine. She was fine. I was fine. It must have been a slow night, because 7 paramedics showed up, 3 ambulances. I think we probably freaked out our neighbors quite a bit. What the heck is going on? Most of them stayed downstairs. A couple came upstairs because they don't get a lot of experience with emergency home births. So they wanted to participate, and they stayed until they knew that her and I were okay. And then they left, and the midwives, they cleaned everything up. They stitched me up. They changed all the sheets and basically got us tucked into bed, went and made themselves some food and finished their paperwork, and then left. And we were at home with the baby by ourselves, not knowing what the heck had just happened, in total shock. It was a lot to process, and it took us a long time. We ended up having some PTSD from what happened. Started going to see a therapist who has been a lifesaver for us and huge advocate for that. She helped and has continued to help a lot with processing what happened, and just the sheer shock and all the emotion that came with it, and the fear and everything.
I picture like a tornado. Just going into your home, swirling around for a few hours, like unpacking, doing the stuff, packing it back up in itself, and then exiting. And you're just kind of there witnessing it almost.
Yes.
And then when it's gone, you have a baby. It must have been... I really admire your husband for being able to stay so calm and being able to stay sturdy so you can rely on him, because I can imagine it'd be difficult in his position to make that, not necessarily decision, but when you're the one going through the pain, when you're the one that's kind of dealing with it, it could be easy to feel unsure and say, well, what do you want to do? Where you're in such a space that it'd be hard to make decisions. You just almost in that space need decisions be made for you. So having somebody who can advocate and speak for you to say, hey, this is going to be the safe route, making sure both you and the baby are safe. So I really admire him to say, just being so strong that you felt confident saying, okay, you know what? I feel confident staying home. I know we're going to do this. This is going to be safe. And this is where my safe space is, especially with your husband near by your side. So once they cleaned up, because usually within the hospital, I guess only from my experience, so I don't know if it's usually, but like the checkups, the immediate checkups or the lactation consulting or the...
they did all of that.
Okay.
Yep. They did it all. They made sure, like they did all her checks for however long. It's all a bit of a blur, but however long they needed to be doing those checks. Same with me. And then like they weighed her. They had like a portable scale, and it was just it's unbelievable everything that they have. And then they were back the next day to do all the 24-hour tests and checks and stuff. And they came a few times that week. And they were, it was like, I was in their care for the first 6 weeks, and then I transferred back to my family doctor.
What a double-edged sword of having it in your home, because on one side, there's a comfort to it because you're home, you're safe, you know where things are, you know, if you need to occupy your time, you've got it, whatever, it's your home. But then having other people and so many people be in your home while you're going through such a big moment, through so many feelings, so much anxiety, and like you said, the fear of things, and just sometimes when nothing's happening, I don't like people in my home sometimes. I'm just like, this is my home, just get out. Like, get out. But to be in that moment and having everyone in your space, I applaud you for just getting through it.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that, I guess, at the time. I was more grateful that we were by ourselves and that it hadn't happened like immediately and, you know, we're on the phone with 911 or something like that. I was very grateful that everybody who was there was very capable of making sure that we were okay. And they were all just there for that reason. So it didn't feel that way. It did feel very weird when they all left, for sure.
They became like your little family, and then they left after the big holiday. Man, and I don't know, and it might be different in Canada. Is the pregnancy care, is that something that's covered, or is this through insurance, or do you do it independently, or it's covered?
Everything's covered. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. It's very different in US, which all of that would have been a very high ticket price.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm grateful for universal health care here. Sure.
Yeah. Especially, it's one thing for like sicknesses or, you know, if you don't take care of your body, it's one thing. But I feel like for pregnancy and something that's so natural and it's such a gift, you know, of bringing another human being into the world, I don't think it should be like held at fault and held reliable, responsible. It seems like something that should be, helped with, provided with, supported by. Mm-hmm. So I like that. It's weird because it's so different here. For us, it was a whole insurance thing. We like got insurance, but then it wasn't approved for the baby in time. We were like a week off, so then we had to pay. No. Yeah, we had to pay for the whole thing out of pocket. But then it was this is how odd it is and why I get a little confused by hospitals. But for them to click that we had a baby, it was going to be $22,000. But then for them to say it was a product of conception, it went down to $3,500. So now we call my baby a product of conception because it was cheaper by 75%.
What?
Yeah. Wow. So it was literally just like a click for them to. I was on the phone with the hospital a few times before because I was trying to get all the pricing done. We were trying to compare prices, whether to do a home birth, a birthing center, or at the hospital. And somebody on the phone told me, like, oh, make sure that you let him know and they can put in this code. And then when it came time to pay, I was in the hospital bed. My husband went to go do it. And they're like, we don't know what code you're talking about. They were trying to call me up. And I was like, I don't know, it's some code. And then some other lady came in and said, click this button. And then I did it. And I was like, does everyone else know about it? I want to make sure that everybody else is getting the discount if they can. Yeah. And if it's just a click, why aren't we all just paying this $3,500 price? You know, I was like, I started seeing the hospital as a business instead of like, hey, we're just here to help you. I'm like, you're not here to help me. You're charging other people $17,000 more. So I got irked by just that because I didn't understand how one click can change so much, but I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. Wow.
But I something just bothers me that adding that pressure on parents, on mom or dad, especially in such a vulnerable time when it's like, hey, I have this baby, it's going to come out no matter what. And then they start putting prices on you. And then what we ran into is afterwards, every month we were just getting a new bill. It's like, oh, now it's $3,000 for this. Now it's $4,000 for this. Another $1,600 for this. And I'm like, I already have the baby. Why didn't we do all of this when I was there? Wow. But that's a different story. But what I am glad is that you didn't have to worry about those things because amongst everything else that was going on.
Yes.
Megan. Dang. Yeah. I'm thankful that you decided to seek a therapist about it. I think it'd be a hard decision to kind of make. And I think maybe I wouldn't know to do it.
We didn't know to do it. It took us a few months of just kind of looking at each other and going, something's not right. I'm not doing great. And the stigma with it, right? Of saying, I need some help here. So, I can't figure this out on my own. We can't figure this out on our own. And I had gone to see a pelvic physio actually after the delivery, and she was phenomenal. And she sat me down and said, I told her the whole story, and she said, I think you might benefit from talking to someone. And I have a couple that I know and I trust. And she gave me a few options to go research, and we together looked them up and read their profiles and bios and found one that we thought might be a good fit. But when it comes to therapy, you really have to make sure it's somebody you feel like you can open up to a lot and get and be honest with and get out of it what you need to. So I emailed this person, and I kind of said, this is sort of what we've been through in the last couple of years between the miscarriage and the pregnancy and the delivery. Do you think you can help us? And she wrote back immediately and said, I'm so sorry that you went through that. I do think I can help you, but come in and meet me and we'll have an initial chat. And so the two of us went together and we clicked instantly with her. And it took a while to sort of bring her up to speed, such as the way with therapy, where, it's a lot of background information before you can get to the helping part. But we knew pretty much right away that she was going to be the one to help us to do that. So we are very, very grateful to her.
I love that. There's something to say, I think, in motherhood in general, our parenthood, maybe just in life, but accepting help. Mm-hmm. I very much struggle with, so I'm trying to make it a point to teach my daughter not only to offer help, help others, but also how to just accept help.
It's okay.
It's okay. And I struggle with it so much. I'm always like, oh, I don't need it. I can do it. I'm fine. This is fine. There's this. At one point in my 20s, I did see a therapist. And I have childhood trauma, I have sexual abuse, I have stuff that I'm only now trying to free myself of, so I have nothing holding me back and I just have clear, free room to occupy it with all my daughter's stuff and all new happy memories. And I had all this negativity in me when I was seeing this therapist, but even at that point, I wasn't even honest with my therapist. I was like, no, everything is fine, and I'd go on about other things. I never touched about any of the stuff that was behind me. I still at that level, still literally seeing the person that's supposed to help me was in such denial about anything that's ever happened to me, that anything is wrong with me, that I'm perfectly fine, that I'd spend my time maybe talking about like my friends or this and this happened and what I thought about it, kind of like this chit chat, completely ignoring the fact that underneath all this stuff and all of the masks that I've ever put on, I need so much help. And when I talk to other moms, something that we talk about is the fourth trimester, and when, you know, you just got back, well, for you, you were already home because my
Never
goodness.
left.
Yeah. But getting home or being home, you know, you almost have to just pick yourself up, and there's this want and need to just get back to things because you have a daily routine, you have stuff that still needs to get done. And we almost ignore the fact that, like, you just went through what would be considered a really high, big surgery. You have another human being you're taking care of. You actually need to take time to just rest and relax, and do ask for help, and do ask people like, hey, bring over a casserole, bring over some books to read together, you know. But I think there's this, at least with me and some moms that I've talked to, there's this want and need to just like get up and say, hey, we can do it. I'm doing the dishes now, and now I'm back to work, and now I'm doing this.
Yep.
And we don't allow that time to actually recover. You know, people sprain an arm, and they're out for a few weeks. And that's not, you know, having a whole human being come out of you. And so I think I'd love to either read more or do more stuff, or maybe even talk to Annie about blogs of just like that transition of help, whether it's with a therapist, family, your partner. I even struggle now asking my husband for help because he's like, let me just do stuff. And I'm like, no, I've got it. And he's like, let me just bring you water. Let me just do something.
I remember my mom was a huge help, especially at the beginning, and she was there every day helping us, you know, really trying to get me to rest and Gihan to rest. And I still felt the need to, you know, tidy up and make sure there were no dishes and cook her something. And she goes, what are you doing? Like, please just go to bed. You don't need to fold the laundry right now. Let me take some of that on. And it still was so hard to not be productive and allow myself to just rest and recover, like you said.
Yeah. I read somewhere that we often confuse peace with boredom. And so when we're actually at peace and should be just relaxing, we're thinking we're bored, so we need to start being productive. Plus, just that feeling of accomplishment. Sometimes productivity contributes to that. So with simple tasks of like doing dishes, folding laundry, you feel like, oh, I got task 1, task 2, task 3 done.
I did it.
Yeah, and you feel accomplished. You feel competent. You feel like, okay, I'm doing stuff. Instead of just what they say, like, hey, just lay down with the baby. But as adults, we're like, I can't just lay all day. You know, we contribute to our self-worth, which isn't fair. We're like, oh, I'm lazy, I'm unproductive, which isn't true at all, but it's just hard. Plus, there's the comparison of, oh, well, before the baby, I was doing this and this and this, and you want to just, like, hop right back into, I also read somewhere there's a term for it, similar to adolescence, but it's like matrolescence. I'm not saying the word right, but it's the period of once you're, similar to a fourth trimester, but it can go on up to, I think, 6 years, maybe 10. I really need to get my stats right. But it's this period of moms who, once having a baby, it's similar to adolescence where you're in a transitional stage of development, not really knowing where you fit in. You're no longer a kid, but you're not quite yet an adult. This is similar to well, you're a mom, but you're no longer the person you were, but you don't quite yet know the person that you are. Because people say, like, oh, well, now, you know, once you become a mom, you just take on this mom personality. But, like, of course you do, because that is what you are. And so now anything that you've ever done before, if you're still doing it, you're doing it through this new lens with this constant voice in your head saying, you know, did you feed the baby? Did they sleep right? Did they have everything they need? Are all of their needs met? Are their happiness met? Are they having fun? While still trying to carry all of the load that you're carrying as yourself as an independent human being. And then if you're in a relationship, of course we still care about the other person. So you're not only thinking about yourself, your partner, and then so instead of just one, it could be double or triple of usually just the decision making fatigue that stems in of like, am I making the right choices, not only for myself but for others? And so there's this, I gotta find the word for it, but that stage of trying to figure out I guess, who you are as a person now that you've entered this motherhood stage?
It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard. And it's hard when things go smoothly or as expected, but when they hit those obstacles like they did for you,
Yeah.
you're really strong.
Oh, thank you.
You really are, like, physically to do all of it, but also mentally, and to be able to accept help, say what you need, and do it through the lens of, hey, this is going to benefit me, my child, and my family. Just saying I need to accept help is really strong, but to be able to do it, to be able to go through what you've done, to pick yourself up, to go through all the things, it's hard. And I think there's not enough conversation about the PTSD and the anxiety and the stress that comes, especially after the baby comes. I think it's like, hey, they plop the baby on you, and then the rest you just kind of do yourself. And I think that's where the confusion comes in, because then you start seeking all of the advice, all of the stuff. You're trying to find answers, which can then be overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, how you've had the baby, and she's beautiful. She's so sweet. I feel so, like, close to you because I get to watch, like, the videos for editing and stuff, and I'm like, man, okay, these are really cute moments and really sweet. You know, you just get to watch this family. Well, for me, it's your family. I just really admire it, you guys, and, like, the grandparents video I was doing. Like, there's just this light, this gleam, this, like pure joy, happiness that you get to witness, and you're like, man, I'm so happy for her because she's growing up with this, like, amazing family, like, full of love. And I just love that. But so let's get to, how did you get to Pecan Co? Because now, even more so than anything, I see how the values align and how it can be so beneficial working now for a parenting brand versus, like, a Windex or Oreo, which is so cool because all of the brands you've named are, like, highly recognized, and for you to be working on the brand aspect of things, you know, you've contributed to them being able to be so recognized. And, you know, for some of them, you just see the colors and you know exactly what brand it is, and that's good marketing right there.
Yeah, I mean, I had a dream job the whole time, but at some point it stopped being my dream, and I knew I needed a change, but you know, it was a good job, and on paper, lots of people would have loved to have it, and it paid well, and the benefits were good, and all the reasons to stay. But I always kind of had in the back of my mind for the last couple of years, what's next? What am I going to do next? And when I came back from maternity leave, so I was able to take a year off, which was amazing. Came back in January of 2020, and then about 6 weeks later, COVID hit and everything shut down. And we were home with a 1-year-old, both trying to work full-time, crazy hours. And obviously with a 1-year-old, she cannot entertain herself for more than 2 minutes and must be supervised at all times. And it really, really took a toll on us for those first couple of months before we accepted any help, because we were nervous for the grandparents. We didn't want to risk getting them sick, and we had an experience right before COVID where Denzi got pneumonia and RSV and was in the hospital for a few days. So we were terrified of going back to the hospital with all the restrictions and everything. So we basically, you know, locked the doors and barely left the house for the first 3 months, and just kind of survived as best we could. And, you know, eventually grandparents started to come and help, which we were super grateful for, but it was still total chaos. And work just kept getting harder and harder. And it wasn't until I actually had to have eye surgery, very routine, you know, it wasn't supposed to be a big deal. Ended up having a freak complication from it, and couldn't see out of one eye. And I'm sure stress and anxiety and too much on a computer screen didn't help that, but it forced me last year to stop working. I had to take time off, had to walk away from this big job that I had worked so hard to get and progress to. And I realized I couldn't do it anymore. So I took some time off and did a lot of soul searching on what did I want my next, phase of the career to be, and had lots of conversations with people outside of the industry doing different things, really cool things. People that old colleagues that I had worked with that have moved on, and chatted with an old friend about what I was kind of thinking, but didn't know if it existed. And I knew I wanted to go smaller and ideally take what I have learned over the last 10, 12 years and help smaller brands grow and, give them the resources and the training that I had been lucky enough to get through my career, and got introduced to Michael through that friend. And we started chatting about the idea, and I got really excited, and we kept talking and talking, and I said, yeah, this is it. It's too perfect to pass up. And I ended up giving my resignation and jumping in, and it is totally different than what I have been doing. It's a very small team, it's a very small budget, but it's incredible. It's amazing. The brands that we have talked to and brought on board are phenomenal. Every founder story is so inspiring, and it's a dream. It's, being able to take everything that I have learned over the years and do some really, really hopefully good stuff with it. That's
amazing.
How I got here.
I love the point you made about how you had a dream job and you knew that it was a dream job, but being able to recognize that there's a shift and it was within you. And then sometimes, even though when things look like, hey, this is exactly what I should be doing, on paper it looks so good, this is, everything is supposed to make me happy, but when it doesn't, and you have that inner call, which would be hard, because especially when it comes to your career and you're getting good money and you feel secure and safe, to have to walk away and say, hey, I'm going to go do something else, but it's going to be so much better. That'd be difficult to do.
It was hard.
Yeah. You're a very strong person, Megan.
Thank you.
I'm very lucky to know you. I think you're very cool.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same about you.
Thank you. It's just, you have a good head on your shoulders. Like, you have been faced with so much, and each time it's like, okay, well, now that you're over it, you can't be facing any new things, but then another thing comes along. But you're able to take it, and I don't know if it's through the support that you have, whether it's through a partner, family, or just your upbringing, but you're able to pivot and change and say, okay, well, now we're going to do this way, and we're going to learn from it, and everything's a learning experience. And now how can I take everything that I've learned and now apply it to this new other thing, whether it be motherhood, parenthood, new job. And I really admire that. I think that's really cool. I know I've definitely gotten stuck in places where I'm like, well, no, but this is working, and so I just need to keep doing it. And then I'm just beating myself up against the wall, struggling, saying, I need to keep going, where I think sometimes it's good to understand and really look within and saying, okay, if this isn't benefiting me anymore, I need to move on so I can be healthy, whether it's mentally, physically, any of it.
Yeah. And I mean, Gihan played a huge part in that. He, begged for a long time, please don't do this anymore. It's not worth it. The money doesn't matter. We'll figure it out, but you need to be okay. And it's hard to hear that from a partner. But once it was doctors and therapists saying, it's got to stop, you got to go do something different, and just the medical complications scared the crap out of me, and it really made me realize that I I got to change, and I owe it to Denzi and to Gihan and my whole family to make sure that I'm okay and happy.
Yeah. I think it's one of the most beautiful things about parenthood is that I don't think there's anything else in the world that can make you change your life for the better, to make you want to take care of yourself more than anything, because you're doing it for your child, saying, hey, I got to make sure I stay healthy, and I'm doing everything that I can to, so I can be here for my kids, so I can be there to help them, so I can be healthy and awake and alert to spend time with them.
Yeah, and wanting her to see that it's okay if something's not working, to change it up. And
Yeah.
you can try new things and take risks, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You try something else, and that's okay. My husband's always been an entrepreneur, so she sees that in him too. So it was important for her to see it neat.
Yeah. What a good example. What a great role model you guys both are to her. I love that. Megan, I'm gonna have to cut it and go feed my baby.
Yeah.
But before I go, let's drop where can people find Pecan, and do we have a full launch date, or is it?
It will be, we're doing actually an exclusive pre-launch for anybody on our wait list, which you can sign up to at pecan.co. You can get a really great free gift from us when you give us your email there, and we will open up the doors to that group of people in early September, and then we'll do a general launch a couple of weeks later for the whole public. Yeah, and then our social handles are at Pecan Co, Instagram, TikTok. You'll see the lovely Lily on our TikTok page and our Instagram page, and Facebook is at Pecan and Co spelt out. Yeah, that's
Perfect.
where you can find us.
I'll include those in the description as well. And I think maybe we should do the podcast again, maybe after it launches, to kind of see where everything is. We can bring you back, talk more, and kind of do a little update, how things are going. We could do it before also, but I think that would also be good. But I'd just love to have you back on again, because I think you're wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I'd love to. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time and sharing your story and being so open about it. I think there's so much. I just want to go make a movie about it, because there's just so much into it, and I want everyone to hear it and to know, but I'm like, I can't just expose your story. This is your story, but I also want, because there's something when we hear a story like that, and for those who have experienced something maybe similar or have struggled or have fears, when we hear that there's another person that have maybe gone through a struggle and how they've overcome, because your story is so beautiful and successful, where you've been faced with so many things, but it's the hero story of things fall on your lap and you're faced with these obstacles, and then how do you overcome and move forward, and then find, like, how do you go from a dream job to a better dream job, what all of that even entails. So I think thank you for sharing it with us, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, bye, Megan. I will talk to you very soon.
Yeah, totally.
Bye. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time at Mom Your Own Way. Bye.